What is going on, Lucid fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I'm going to give you a good overview of everything you need to know for this upcoming week that could cause a little bit more volatility in Lucid, go over some data points very relevant to a lot of investors, and tie it all together with some technical analysis at the end. Before I get into any of that, making sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I greatly appreciate that. With that, let's get right to it. So as far as economic data coming out, there isn't really anything that could cause a lot of volatility within Lucid this week, with the exception of Friday. So on Friday, we do have the non-farm payroll coming out, and I've always been a very strong believer in, as far as the consumers on the data that's been coming out, they've been really the ones propping up the whole economy and avoiding us from a massive recession. That's my own 2 cents. Keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor, do your own due diligence, but this definitely could cause a lot of volatility depending on what comes out from that, because if there is a little bit more of a downtrend, which as you can see it is anticipated, previously it was 372,000, forecast is currently 250,000, so it is anticipated to go down. But again, it's one of those things, if it is ahead of the forecast, then you know what, we'll be in kind of clear skies. But this is going to be a tail end of the week, so I also do feel that there's going to be a lot of volatility on Friday, more so people starting to talk about CPI, and that will ultimately be on August the 10th. That's the next CPI data coming out, and overall though, it does go to show that potentially we might be bottoms. So even Elon did say inflation might be trending down. As vague as that is, that does seem to be the very strong consensus. So again, like I said, going back to this, on Friday, most likely you'll get a little bit more piggybacking of this data and what that comes out of, and also CPI data. A lot of people are starting to talk about that. So that's some things to know. Obviously, outside of data points, there is their earnings. So August the 3rd is going to be a very big day, and they are announcing their earnings after hours. So just keep that in mind as well. Make sure you do subscribe, because I'm going to be live streaming that as well. So overall though, I do feel that I've kind of beaten the horse to death. I've talked about every different aspect of their potential earnings, things that you definitely need to know. I've talked on earnings per share, revenue, future guidance, but no matter what, as important as those attributes are, I personally feel it will come down to delivery numbers. If they are fairly good, then you know what, the rest is going to be second priority. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that we just need to ramp up production, plain and simple. So I think this is going to be one thing that they definitely look for, especially when it comes down to their future guidance. They're going to be looking for hints of risks. So that's something that you just need to watch for in general. But I think no matter what, we need to take a step back and realize that the Q3 and 4 is when they said that they're going to ramp up production. That's something that basically they need to hold very accountable. And at the end, I do feel that they also need to reiterate their 12 to 14,000 price target. If they do cut their price target, then potentially that could cause a little bit more of a downtrend. But given the circumstances, even technically it looks like Cathie Woods is saying that a bottom is in. So Cathie Woods says growth stocks will outperform as bear market ends. So yes, she's actually saying the bear market is potentially done. So very bold statement coming out from Cathie, but I think a lot of people do have a lot of respect for Cathie in addition to Elon. So potentially, if both of those individuals are saying that inflation is peaked and that the bear market is done, then you know what? Lucid is going to go up considerably. My own 2 cents. But I personally always bring up saying that you cannot ignore all the data that's happening behind the scenes, and one of which is the huge amount of institutional purchasing that has been being done over the last, let's say, 2.5 months per se, give or take, around that time frame. But still, a lot of big money has been getting in. And keep in mind, during their actual earnings, a lot of institutions were getting in because of being included in the Russell 3000. So that's a big deal. So most likely, when it comes down to the 13Fs coming out, which potentially as well could be a nice catalyst. No big names are coming out in the first week of August. They are all coming out in the second week, so that's something you need to keep in mind. But still, institutions adding Lucid is a very big deal and very beneficial. So that might be a double-edged catalyst. So you'll see a lot of institutions getting in, and also live data as well coming in. So a lot of positive things. And one as well that I feel is going to be very relevant is short information. So I've been really bringing that up lately because I like to use that as a good benchmark. But outside of that though, we've actually gone down quite a lot. So generally we were at roughly about 25%. Now we are currently at 20.58. even on Friday, they only closed, it's pretty flat, but 64,000 shares. So pretty flat, like I said. Short score is still relatively high, so the likelihood of a squeeze happening if we do get a positive catalyst is still there, because keep in mind, we have 120 million shares being shorted, which is very high. And technically, if we do have good earnings or a very surprise catalyst, for instance, let's cross our fingers and say, you know what, we are actually bumping up the gravity back to 2023, that will cause a epic squeeze. So just take that how you see that. Some people aren't really fans of squeezes, some people are, but out of everything, Lucid is definitely has a very strong likelihood of a squeeze happening if it has a surprise catalyst. Keep that in mind. I've covered on what potentially could cause a squeeze in the past a lot, and I think the X factor is always you need that surprise catalyst, because if there is a known piece of news coming out, then shorts have the ability to anticipate that and kind of adjust. So obviously, whether it's worth their risk while or whatever it might be, they can close at the position in advance of that. But if it is a surprise catalyst that catches them off guard or everyone off guard, then that is where a squeeze could happen. So you never know, that might be coming in the coming weeks. But outside of that though, I think there is a lot of articles talking about Lucid earnings, and one of which is this one. So potentially it doesn't really see it in a very positive light. That does anticipate that Q3 and 4 are going to be a little bit more positive, but as far as things for Q2, it's not that optimistic. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below, and also let me know your thoughts on the Q2 earnings, if it's going to be very positive, negative, whatever it is. Let me know. I'm very curious on that. But there's one thing that not necessarily related to this week that I personally feel that Lucid needs to do, because I feel if I don't bring this up in this video, then I probably will forget. But it looks like here I am on the internet did post this saying that potentially they even see the Dreams up for auction over 220,000, which I think that's a very negative thing. The fact that so many people actually reserve and purchase these vehicles and then just outright flip them, when in reality they might not have any actual intention to actually own or kind of use the vehicle. So it's very interesting to see what GM is doing, how they're potentially trying to limit that by obviously canceling the warranty if it's transferred within the first 12 months of ownership. So I personally feel hopefully Lucid might do something along those lines as well. But let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Like I said, this won't really relevant or affect Lucid at all this week. It's just one of those things that I found very interesting, and hopefully they do bring this up in their actual earnings, that potentially they're going to be seeking to avoid any flipping, because I think no matter what, when you're building a very luxurious brand, you want customers to take pride in the actual vehicle, not necessarily just see it as, okay, I'm going to buy it and flip it and make an extra 25% on it or whatever it might be. That's not generally what you want to see. So let me know your thoughts on that. But overall, leading into next week, our technicals have gone down so much. So they were very hot, cooled off quite a lot. So stochastic is at 13. So I think right now a lot of the technicals are all pointing to a nice rally potentially coming. Again, there's a lot of things coming this week that could dictate that. Mostly is going to be their earnings. So right now, momentum number of buyers is going up. Stochastic, like I said, is very much oversold. So we went from over purchased or overbought to oversold. So it's interesting, kind of a switch there. So currently 13, no defined trend right now, so they merged together. RSI is currently at 46 on the actual chart, lower percentile of the Bollinger Band. But generally speaking, I do feel that we are going to start the week off based on very positive technicals. So like I said, oversold technicals, we should get a nice little bit of buying pressure going on first thing. So that might be something that we need to keep in mind, and then depending on how the earnings actually go, that will dictate where we potentially could go. So based on my estimates and assumptions, I feel that it's basically going to be fairly mixed, if not a tad negative for Q2. Obviously I did kind of reiterate that in the upcoming earnings, but still I think there's going to be some good things, and hopefully they do have some surprises under their belt, because there is a lot of things that potentially we know nothing about. Like for instance, Tempe, that whole facility, what is that for? The 2 plots of land that is connected to AMP, what is that for? Is that going to be for the ESS? What is that? In addition to partnerships, are they going to announce a partnership? Because if that is the case, then this is going to blow up massively. But all of that aside, I personally feel that we should be around the $19 mark getting into our earnings. And then, like I said, a little bit more flat, and how things are based on the technicals. At the end, I see around $19.50 to around $21 as where we will be. So I think overall the week will be very positive. A little bit more volatility probably coming from our earnings, as it always does. Typically when the initial numbers do come out, people overreact a little bit, so you might have a little tentative sell-off there depending on how the numbers come out, and then during the conference call what is said during the future guidance. So let me know your thoughts on all of that in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I greatly appreciate that. If you do like my channel and support the growth, take a look at my memberships, link in the description below, or just hit the join button at the bottom of the screen. With that, I appreciate you guys watching, and let's all make a lot of money on Lucid.